Hello, everyone. This is the second episode of the Working Class Power Hour podcast. My name is John Ferretti. I'm one of the co founders of the Local 100 Fight Back Coalition here in New York City subway train conductor. And I'm joined by Eric Basir, my co host in ATU Local 308. He's an executive board member there in Chicago and a longtime friend of our coalition. So Eric has some news about some recent developments in Chicago. We're going to lead off with that, um, and members here in New York will be familiar with the lunacy of the bureaucrats who currently control our union and the lengths to which they will go to suppress um, and despise any independent members' voices in leadership in the union, or just um, having any voice whatsoever in the union. So uh, I think you definitely can relate to Eric's experiences. But one of the reasons why I want Eric to explain what's going on there is that there was actually a victory against um, the um, the wishes of the bureaucrats there in Chicago that represents hope in terms of the ability of rank and file workers to independently chart the course for their own unions and have their demand to have their elected representatives be heard. And so I'll let Eric explain what's been going on there. And while Eric's gonna be speaking, I'm gonna be sharing out the live stream to many groups. And please feel free to include your comments in the comments. We'll try our best to answer them while we're on the live stream. But as you guys know, the live stream never stops. The discussion never stops. We can continue the discussion um, in many future days to come. So, Eric, the floor is yours.
John, thank you, brother. It's great to be on this second episode, this collaboration between New York and Chicago. This is the kind of thing we got to do as uh, transportation industry workers. Look, union democracy is making great progress in Chicago, I have to say. Even if things didn't turn out the way they did, it still would be progress. This is monumental. I just want y'all to see. Actually, let me kind of, because they always love to put charges on me for sharing information. They don't like local ATU Chicago 241 and 308. The officials do not like when we share. They don't like to share information with the members. But this here, all these X's. Is for Tuesday, the 13th of February. This was the union membership meeting day where false charges against me for violating some fake code of conduct that they made up. It's not even in the Constitution. These charges were going to be read in the membership, according to Section 22 of the Amalgamated Transit Union Constitution, had to democratically decide if these four false charges, should be considered. And when you consider it, if you say, yes, we consider it, we affirm it, it's considered valid, then there has to be a trial, there has to be people appointed, and basically they wanted to they called it a paper trail on me. That's what they kept saying. We might not kick him out. We just might suspend him. They're talking like bosses. They imitate the CTA mismanagement, the MTA mismanagement. We all got all the same things with these bootlickers in our unions. So our president took everybody off work. Our union dues paid for every freaking officer to be off for 8 hours that day. Mm-hmm. 8 hours. All these 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, plus people who aren't even officers anymore, took them off to come and vote for her charges, her and the vice president's charges. Mark Weems, Penny McCoach is the new president. Mark Weems is the vice president. I call him the shadow president, because he really he put this into full speed. Mm-hmm. And I got up and I addressed each charge. And then her people got up and talked about how something's got to be done with me, and I'm sharing information. And the president even, we had this tragic uh, incident where a coworker was off the clock at home or around home or something and was killed by gun violence. I believe it was just the bullet just was flying. Bullets were just flying for other people, and this person just died. So the president, in the most low down thing she could have ever done, said, "We had this member who died out there with gun violence, and the kind of thing that Eric Basir is doing by sharing information with the members can cause random gun violence and cause people to get killed. I mean, you're attaching me. You're so desperate. You're gonna attach me to this murder. You know what I'm saying?" And I didn't name none of these suckers. I said 8 of these suckers sided with a CTA to fire someone over a doctor note. And 2 of us, me included, voted to side with him. And then they said I followed this member out to the car. I mean, they were digging. They were trying to make everybody there fry me. They said I followed the poor worker to their car. I never left the building until the cops kicked me out. Then they said the worker said I made the worker feel uncomfortable. But nowhere do we have a statement. The member was never there. You know, and it's like, where are you getting this stuff from? Then I'm like, point of information, because I had a text message and I put it online where the vice president told me he's got a recording of the meeting and that will let the truth come out. So I said, he's got a recording. Let's play that for the members. You already talked, Basir. You already had your chance. I'm like, so I'm telling my side and then you guys go and lie. And I'm saying, well, let's listen to the record. Then some members got up and spoke, and one of them said, you know, wow, it's pretty interesting. You take all these people off work just for today. They went off on him. Long story short, we had to have a 75% vote in the affirmative for these charges to stick for consideration. They only got 50%. We divided the room. Yes and no. They said, all right, we're going to count it again. Let's make sure everybody's here that's supposed to be here. We can't have the retirees. And then we had some retirees staying there. One was our ex-president, and one of my coworkers said, man, he's a retiree. He needs to get out of here. And that ex-president said, I got more years than you've been born. You know, we're like, so? You're still a traitor. Get out of here. You know, so we got him out. And then they counted again. They lost. They counted again. They lost. The charges were destroyed. So, brothers and sisters, I want to say the members came out. And John, let this be a lesson for Local 100. Members who never come to the meetings showed up. And when they did, they destroyed the will of the CTA's boss agents. They destroyed it. I have never seen in my 6 years as an active union member when officers were so determined to have their way. They paid for this. They paid for votes. They were so desperate. I've never seen their will overturned democratically, except on the 13th. Never. So whether you come to meetings or not, we, John, and other revolutionaries need to look at this not as like, that's great for Brother Eric. No, that's great for a case study for revolutionary unionism. And that is, members, you are the union. And you can get their way. Man, you just get their way from some little light, bright, almost white, skinny rookie that they ain't got no respect for. But imagine if we could do that for our jobs, right? Our pensions, our retirement, all this, our benefits. This is powerful. So we did this. Right. The members did this. And I did a petition. We had members, John, that donated money to my petition to get it spread. So people signed a petition. They didn't go, but some went. Some were actually scared and told not to go. Check that out. But we still won. So there you have it.
Yeah. Well, Well, I mean, I think one thing I will say is that your union bylaws are a lot more democratic than ours are. I mean, if they got 51%, they would claim victory here in New York. It wouldn't. And in terms of members attending a public discussion about whether or not a union officer should be removed, it wouldn't be that. It would be the executive board deciding, and it would be a rigged vote. And I don't know about you in Chicago, but I know here in New York, all of our executive board members, almost entirely, without exception, are on union release time, and they vote the way the union president and the administration want them to vote. So I guess we should be thankful that they haven't been as successful in destroying union democracy in the ATU 308 as they are here in New York. Um,
But keep in mind, there were two officers that did vote against the charges. There were two.
yeah, so that is important. Yeah, that they broke ranks on that. But the reason why we want to publicize these battles is, like, as Eric said, not because of him as an individual, but because it's important um, to re-instruct ourselves about the power of the rank and file, and where union democracy actually comes from. It doesn't come from the top; it comes from the ranks themselves, and modeling behavior that puts bureaucratic union leaders in check is always a good example. And congratulations, Erica. There's other congratulations in the comments from Celso Garcia. Um, and we hope that that's the beginning of even more union democracy in your union. But we also want to try to broaden out the discussion to other issues that are currently a great cause of anxiety and concern for transit workers. I don't know if you heard, but there was a recent assault of a station agent at the Wall Street station in New York City by um, a passenger that was sleeping under a bench, and um, uh, unfortunately, the station agent was set up to be in that position because the union had agreed to taking station agents out of the booth. They agreed to do so in the middle of a contract without any input from the membership, and to add insult to injury, put them in bright yellow and reflective vests that say customer service agent, and basically added to their job responsibilities these kind of responsibilities which should never be their job. Um, and so, in any case, I'm not going to play the video of the assault. We don't do that. We don't engage in sensationalizing um, the abuse of our coworkers. I don't think that anybody who's a trade unionist should be doing that. And the fact that that video was leaked to the news media by the MTA, with this complete silence of the union leadership about it, really shows how pathetic and weak and and the kind of lackeys that we have, and the management bootlickers that we have in leadership of the union. Um,
Well, we know why they do that, because they want a police force.
yeah,
You know, they this is the solution to everything. Just
right.
throw police, prisons, and whatnot.
Yeah, and I want to make I want to make clear that the person who assaulted this member, I don't want anybody to believe that we don't have um, compassion and sympathy for this member or for the conditions that members are put in throughout the system. I'm currently recovering from an assault on duty. This is not something I take lightly. I've been repeatedly assaulted as a train conductor. So I understand the trauma that they're going through. And I understand the trauma that we all feel and the anxiety that we all feel, because we know that we're not safe, and we know that we're put into positions, not only by management, but by our own union leadership, to work unsafely, to work in unsafe conditions, and to basically have no idea that anyone is going to come to our rescue, or that we have an ability to refuse unsafe working conditions, that we have an ability to act independently of our bosses and advocate for what workers' needs are, and not what the needs of the system are. So in any case, I want to show a video of Passengers United, the president of the Passengers United organization. Now, I don't wholeheartedly endorse this organization. I don't know. I don't think that we'll agree on everything, but it's just interesting that um, here you have a passenger community organizer advocating for members to the head of the stations department, the VP of the stations department. And it's just, I just think it's instructive, the response of the union leadership to any kind of criticism about their collaboration with management and their agreeing to put workers in unsafe conditions. So I'm just going to play that video just to further frame the discussion. I just got to share my screen and we'll just take a look at it. It's a short video and then we'll continue the discussion. Let me just get that up. Okay, so
subway system. And this is why, Robert Kelly, this goes to you. So when I spoke to you about station agents being out of the booth, especially overnight, and I had that conversation with you, what did you say to me? Why is it that he took the station agents out of the booth?
Why are you so concerned about it? Why are you so concerned about the station saving the station agent job?
Right. Chris is right here.
Who are you?
You don't know who I am.
No, I don't know who you are. I don't even care who you are.
Right.
Right. You don't even care about the agents. You don't even know what their job entails. You don't even know the fact that they're getting ready to lose their job. You don't care about that. You just want press. You're a clown.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You said everything. You took
I
everything
said
out
you're a
of the
clown.
Right. Right.
You're a
Right.
clown today. You're going to be a clown tomorrow.
Right. Right.
All right?
Okay.
The show is over.
Okay. So, guys, that's coming from the union, guys.
Coming from Robert Kelly, Vice President, that saved the station agents' jobs. This clown here knows nothing about them and would like them to lose their jobs. He just wants press. He's a clown today. I'm waiting for his shoes to explode.
So, let me ask you something.
I'm asking you nothing. I don't speak to clowns.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. So, that's that. So, this is tragedy in our subway system. So, we just need better safety and better leadership. Thank God the cameras in the subway station were working.
I'm going to stop the share. Sorry, hold on a second. All right, Eric. Yeah, okay, we have our screen here. Okay. Just the reason why I show this is because it's important for us to clearly see how the union leadership conceives of itself. I remember a time when the MTA was trying to close station agent booths, when Marty Goodman, a socialist, independent executive board member, and others, Roger Toussaint and others, led protests about saving station agent jobs, and they rallied the community to fight for the funding needed to actually pay for those jobs to be saved. And they made a safety argument, and they also made a customer service argument. But the major thing which Marty and others put forward was a class solidarity argument, that this is an attack on all of us, that it's a way to push privatization and automation as a solution to safety in the subway, customer service in the subway, and providing a public service to these communities. And the fact that it's not just station agents that are unsafe when management comes up with these crackpot plans, because there's much less of them, there's more demand on them. And we see later where management was going with this, setting up our employees to be trauma victims and setting them up to be attacked because they put a bullseye on those employees with constant narrative that, employees are shiftless and lazy, and they're looking for the biggest free lunch in the world, and they want everybody to give them a free ride, basically. Or what they constantly do in the subway, where they explain service delays, saying they're short-staffed and that we're doing the best we can with the workers we have available. And the issue is that a union should look at passengers who are uniting to fight and support their workers' needs as an opportunity for solidarity. But instead, this union leader sees it as his job to piss on and mock someone who's reaching out to build solidarity and unity, and is asking a question as to why he did what he did to put to to put workers in even more danger. And the response is ego. The response is, you can't say that to me. You don't know what you're talking about. I saved their jobs. Well, it matters. How you save jobs matters. Whether those jobs are the kind of jobs that we need, the kind of jobs that actually provide safety and secure employment for working class people, whether it actually provides the services that communities actually need, and not whatever the MTA bosses decide they want. And so it's instructive to see the attitude of the union leadership, which is, you're fucking up my image. You're criticizing me going to bat for workers to save their jobs. And the way in which they want to save their jobs is creating a job title that nobody would want to work under in those conditions. They want to make it so unlivable that maybe the people who currently have that title will have that job, but that eventually they'll justify eliminating that job and creating the mass surveillance state that they all see as the solution, where cameras are going to keep us safe, cops are going to keep us safe, and basically what they want to do is put workers in a position where they see nobody coming to the defense, so they will accept right-wing talking points and narratives and quote solutions that we know fail. We know that more cops in the subway doesn't solve anything. You all see it every day. They're all on Instagram. They're on their fucking cell phones. They're not doing anything to defend workers. They don't even see it as their job to defend workers. And in fact, if they were really serious about more police in the subway, it wouldn't be done on overtime. It would be done with actual officers that are already on the payroll. It wouldn't.
And that's so ridiculous, because overtime, people are exhausted.
Right.
When you're doing overtime, when you're not in operations, because overtime in operations is like it's like forced overtime. But when you volunteer for overtime, you're in maintenance, you're in things like that. You're tired. You really don't want to do intense work.
Right.
And you can't. It's not safe at all.
Well, it's not only just that, Eric. It's not only just that, Eric. The NYPD has been on a rampage since the Black Lives Matter protests, and have basically been on a blue strike. And they do the bare minimum on the regular, and now they've taken it to on steroids, where they're basically, we can't do anything or we'll be criticized, so we'll do nothing. And and aside from which, like, what it does is it pushes the working class into the arms of reactionaries. It pushes them into the narrative of the Donald Trumps of the world, the Curtis Slewers of the world, vigilante justice, physical intimidation, violence as the solution to our problems, when we all know that you're not going to solve a problem like emotionally disturbed people in the subways. You're not going to solve people with drug and alcohol addiction, people who are homeless and dispossessed, by physical brute force. It's just not going to solve the problem.
We here in Chicago, we had a president before this one we got now. It was just really the same, just their hair is different, the name is different. But he was saying, I think we need to make sure that the members can carry firearms with them. And I'm just like, God damn.
So some more guns are the solution.
Right. Just and it's simple. It's simple. Crime and poverty. Mm. You can't have one without the other. You got crime, you're gonna find poverty. You got poverty, you're gonna have crime. I mean, it's that simple. Yeah. And at the CTA, we actually breed poverty. So we have 4 tiers. We have the second chance program for the ex-felons. We got the part-time temporary, and we got the full-time temporary, and then we got the full-time permanent. But those full-time temporary, part-time temporary, and second chance, they're poverty time jobs. You know what I mean? You can't get by with those kind of jobs. You know, you can't own a house with those kind of jobs. You know, so what happens with your children, right? You know, and then you go and your child gets locked up and you go and bail them out and you're like, hey man, why are you so hard on my son, you know, or my daughter, and they go off on you and they see you in a CTA uniform and they complain to the CTA, and then the CTA manager writes you up for conduct unbecoming because you were wearing a uniform. This is a real case, by the way. It really happened.
Yeah.
And so then the union says I'm in it, right? I'm an officer, and we say, okay, we'll have to arbitrate. We'll arbitrate this case. But the problem is it's going to keep happening over and over again because that's all we do is arbitrate cases. We don't go and fight on the shop floor. We don't go fight at the terminals, fight at the stations for the members. We wait for a member to speak up and say something and grieve it, which, 60% of them, 75% of them won't for whatever reason. And so here we go again, poverty upon poverty upon poverty. And then if that doesn't work, well, let's have a war. We can recruit soldiers and pay them, and they can die and suffer. And when they get back, they'll be crippled and in poverty.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Just to speak about like how the union not being organized to fight to defend ourselves in our own class interests, to make a class perspective, to make a political program of what the working class actually stands for and what the working class actually needs to solve these problems. The absence of that leadership coming from our unions, our institutions, and the lack of our democratic control of those institutions leads to the reactionary provocateurs like Curtis Sliwa posing and posturing as if they're the ones that are going to solve the problem with vigilante violence. I'm sure people have seen a little bit of what happened and the difference between Curtis Sliwa and this Guardian Angel story and what actually happened in that assault at Times Square. So I'm going to share my screen and play something from CNN that gives a little bit of a framing of what happened.
It was supposed to be a made-for-TV moment. Yesterday, Fox News was interviewing Curtis Sliwa, the head of the New York City-based vigilante group known for targeting migrants. And they were discussing migrants in New York City when suddenly this happened.
Guys have just taken down one of the migrant guys right here on the corner, 42nd and 7th, while all this is... Can you pan the camera? They've taken over. They've taken over. You'd like the camera over there if at all possible. Yep. Oh, you got your key open, guys. He is out of control. Out of control.
So later, he was brought back for an update.
Well, he had been shoplifting first.
Oh, sorry about that.
First, the Guardian Angel spotted him, stopped him. He resisted. And let's just say we gave him a little pain compliance. His mother back in Venezuela felt the vibrations. He's sucking concrete. The cops scraped him off the asphalt. He's on his way to jail.
So according to the New York City Police Department, none of that is true. Senior media reporter here at CNN, Oliver Darcy, is here to tell us what actually happened there. Oliver, Fox News very willingly stepping into this setup.
Yeah, and I think this is actually really representative, Abby, of how the Fox News universe and really the right-wing media universe at large operates. They hype a story, right? Hours later, the story falls apart. You know, in this case, there is no migrant, according to the New York City Police Department. There was no shoplifting, according to the New York City Police Department. This guy was just interfering, I guess, with the camera shot, and there was an altercation is what happened, according to, again, the police department. And so the story falls apart, and then they just move on. They just pretend it didn't happen, right? Like, so Fox News was hyping it this morning on the front page of their website. The story just gets quietly edited. You know, they don't put a correction on it. You know, Sean Hannity, I was watching tonight, he doesn't mention that this entire episode that was viral on his show was built on a lie. he just moves on and he's going back to more anti-immigrant rhetoric, just a different story.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty remarkable. And
Okay, we'll leave it there. But the reason why I showed that was just to frame um, the discussion, because we have to talk about these things. I mean, we're being manipulated into gaslighting to have us believe the cause of social disorder in society is some immigrant from Venezuela who risked their life and their children's life to get to the United States because of the disorder that's created by U.S. imperialism, because of U.S. sanctions, because of U.S. foreign policy. We're also being manipulated and gaslit by the same right wing politicians who say they're going to save us from the border crisis are engaging in human trafficking to get these immigrants to major cities like New York and Chicago and elsewhere, to further throw gasoline on the fire and use people who are victims of U.S. immigration policy, the fact that there are nowhere near the number of immigration judges to process these applications for asylum. The same people who repeatedly lie, saying that these are illegal immigrants. They are not illegal immigrants. They are legal immigrants requesting asylum. They are refugees from fires that we've started all over the world. And they have a right to claim asylum. They have a legal right under U.S. law. They have a legal right under international law. And just based on, any pretension to believe in any kind of human rights, the United States has the capacity to accept immigration from these countries. The question is, they are manufacturing a crisis just like they do with crime, just like they do with the false narratives of, rising crime rates and, crime is out of control and migrant crime waves. They sell these wolf tickets and they basically make it seem like they're going to be there to protect us when they've actually created the problem in the first place. And the Democratic Party is up to their necks in all of this. And Biden has collapsed any kind of principal support for immigrants' rights by basically adopting Trump's narrative. And the only reason why it didn't pass, the only reason why even harsher immigration enforcement and attacks on immigrants to set them up for hate crimes didn't happen is because the right wing wants it as an issue in the election. And they do this again and again and again. And every 2 years, isn't it amazing? Every 2 years, there's an American crisis. There's a crisis at the border every 2 years when it's convenient for them to use demagogic, racist propaganda to set the most vulnerable people in society up for attack and to give working class people who are angry about their conditions and the disorder in society a convenient target for their rage. And that's what they're seeking to do. They're seeking to weaponize our anger, our anxiety, our frustration with the fact that problems never are solved under the society. There are no solutions, and we all know there's never going to be any solution under capitalist rule because the ruling class wants immigrants here. They want them here and they want them terrorized. They want them to be willing and passive participants in their own exploitation so that they can increase their profits. Eric, go ahead.
It's so identical with the so-called second chance program here in Chicago. These ex-felons, people that have difficulty getting work because of a record. And that's what they do. The mismanagement, they terrorize them. They brutalize them. And they tell them, you better not do such and such or you won't make it to full time. They actually made a whole separate set of rules for punishment for these people. These desperate human beings that do full-time jobs at half the pay, at part-time wage and benefits. So you and me, we're full-time or we're part-time temporary or full-time temporary. We can get 8 absentee marks, whether you're late or you come late, a minute late or an hour late, you can get 8 in 1 year and they'll fire you. But you a second chancer, you get 3 and they fire you. You get caught falling asleep at your post, you need 3 of those to get fired. But the second chancers get 1. Fear. They take the poorest people, these refugees, and they tell us how bad they are. And that's what they tell us for full-timers. You'll hear it all the time. Yeah, them second chances, they're no good. A bunch of criminals. All they know is drugs and they don't have no teeth and this and this and that. I mean, they all kind of terrible stuff. I know I deal with them because this is in my department, okay? In vehicle maintenance. Because they clean trains, you know, and the stations for the janitor side too. And they're punished doubly. So we see them. Oh, look at that! Whenever one of them drops dirty, they do a random drop. Oh, he got cocaine. Oh, he got weed. They say, see, there they go again. And damn, no good second chancers. And we start doing them talking points. You know, we sound them right wing talking points, right? And we just go right into it. Now, of course, the left wing ain't no better. The so-called Democrats, so-called progressives, because they're all part of this monster. But I'm definitely not promoting Biden over Trump or Trump over Biden. But fear, and that they're just like you described it. That's all.
Yeah. I also wanted to play another video that talks about, like, if we go down this road, if we accept advice from racist vigilante scumbags like Curtis Sliwa and Donald Trump, somebody who supported and aided and backed an insurrection to overthrow American democracy, and says that he'll invoke the Insurrection Act if elected against any of his enemies to throw them in prison. A man who openly, talks about the most massive deportation in the history of the United States if he's elected, and basically gutting the administrative state, rolling back civil rights, yada yada yada. If we accept, these people's solutions as a way forward for the working class, I want to show you where it leads, and I want to show you what the world looks like when groups that are much more violent and much more dangerous, the Nazis, begin to feel comfortable to come out above ground and spout their racist, genocidal rhetoric. So let me just pull up the. Share the screen and pull up the video. I'm first going to show you a video of how to do political action against this kind of right-wing narrative. But first I want to show you the actual. Actually, no, I'll just show the speeches, because I think it's more important to see how we should be countering the narrative. So let's just pull up the video. This is on Twitter. So, share. Okay. So now the person who's speaking, his name is Justin Jones. He was a state House representative in Tennessee who was removed from office because they led a protest in the House chamber over the right-wing policies of the state government. And he was reelected as part of a rebellion to check the power of the Republican state House representatives. So I'll pull up the video here. There we go.
Is it you got it on?
Yeah.
We're not getting anything.
All right, hold on. Can you hear it?
No, we got nothing.
Let me just stop. Let me just go back because it just works, so it should work. Let's see. Maybe because it's Twitter. Let me try to share the screen again. Share.
Maybe you shared the wrong screen because the screen you shared was actually the link in your Gmail.
Okay, well, let's try. Can you see it now?
That looks different. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's put this from the beginning. Sorry about that.
We wanted to make clear
Yeah, that works.
that this strategy of division is not an accident. That it is no coincidence that Nazis felt welcome in Nashville.
Right.
By what we're seeing every day in the Tennessee General Assembly.
Right.
When they passed laws making it so that Jewish couples could not adopt children and justifying that, you welcome Nazis here.
Right.
When you pass laws attacking the Muslim community and this so-called Sharia law, you welcome Nazis here.
Yes.
When you pass laws that made it more easier to protect the Confederate statue than it is to protect the life of a human being, you welcome Nazis
Yes.
here. When you made it easier to get a gun than it is to vote in the state, you welcome Nazis here.
Yes.
When you get on the House floor and talk about an invasion at the border, you welcome Nazis here. When you go down, Governor Lee, to the border and hold a press conference and try and politicize the identity of our immigrant community, you welcome Nazis here. When you pass a resolution honoring a white musician but not a black musician because you didn't like what she looked like, you welcome Nazis here. When you pass laws targeting our LGBTQ community and passing drag bans, you welcome Nazis here. When you pass laws saying we want to have Confederate flags in classrooms but not LGBTQ plus flags, you welcome Nazis here. When your caucus looks like the same folks marching,
Come on.
because you pushed everybody out of your caucus
Come on.
who looks different, who believes different,
Right.
you welcome Nazis
Yes.
here. And so it's easy. I'm going to say that we see the darkness, but we're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on what this looks like.
Yes.
There's a saying, "Dime con quien andes y te diré quién eres." Show me with who you were with, and that shows me who you are.
Yes.
But we're here together. We are not afraid today. That was meant to intimidate our community, but we stand united, multiracial, multi-generational, multi-faith, people who have not been together for some time, standing on the plaza, the People's Plaza, where they were, saying we're reclaiming the space.
Yes.
We're cleansing the space. We're getting rid of all that hate and that negativity and saying, this is our plaza.
Yes.
This is our house.
Yes.
And we are not covering up our face because we're proud of who we are. We're proud to stand together.
Yes.
We're proud to represent a new South. And so we send a message today that we are unified and that if you come for one of us, you come for all of us.
Okay, so let me just stop sharing the screen. All right, so why do we show this video? We show the video because we want to show that it is possible to counter the trolling and gaslighting and self-defeating narratives that are coming from the right wing. But unfortunately, you don't see any of that coming from your own union leadership. They never do it, ever, never. They never counter the right-wing talking points that are all over the media, constantly setting our own workers up for attack. They don't counter the narrative. They have nothing to say in response. The only reason why these people who are lurking in the shadows feel comfortable crawling out from under the rocks they've been living under, and why they feel comfortable coming out into the light of day, is because we are not organized to teach them a lesson every time they come out from underneath their rocks with their racist, disgusting, genocidal rhetoric. And that's the problem, is that if there's not an answer, their answer will gain traction. It will gain traction because they're appealing to the worst parts of human nature. They're tapping into the anxiety and fear and anger that workers feel because there are no solutions for their problems, and because the left is silent, because the left is almost entirely mute, and basically adopts the right-wing talking points to say they believe the same things as the right wing. That's why these reactionary opinions, which would be in the infinitesimal minority of popular opinion, gain traction. They seem like they have solutions, whereas our class doesn't seem to have any solutions. And that kind of weakness in the face of the rise of fascism is a recipe for the destruction of our unions. It's a recipe for the destruction of civil rights in this country. And I think that Americans in particular, we think that democratic rights are going to exist forever. We think that they're somehow God-given and they can never be taken away. And that has to do with the relative privilege in this country that we have because we live in the belly of the beast of imperialism. But we have to be honest with, we have to really sense the danger of what the world will look like if the working class is silent. What the world will look like if the working class is not organized to defend its interests. Just because we have those rights because of the blood, sweat, and sacrifice of working class people and our ability to organize in our own collective self-defense. And when that does not exist, anything is possible. So, Eric, I want to give you a chance to intervene, but I just wanted to try to frame the discussion a little bit. You're on mute. You're muted.
Sorry. So I was just going into the TWU Constitution to find something regarding principles, but I didn't quite find it. Doesn't mean I'm not saying it's not there. Oh no, here it is. Here
Okay.
it is.
Oh, you found principles?
I did.
And are union leaders really?
Not the leaders in the Constitution.
You mean the original leadership, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's very similar to ours in the Amalgamated Transit Union. And you see words, like safeguard the economic security and social welfare of working people, and to protect and extend our democratic institutions, civil rights, and liberties, and to perpetuate the cherished traditions of democracy. And in the ATU Constitution, we have a preamble, and it's similar. We have to encourage the principle and practice of conciliation and arbitration in the settlement of differences between labor and capital, blah, 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 establish order and harmony, promote the general cause of humanity, goodwill towards all, and secure the blessings of friendship, equality, and truth, do ordain and establish the Constitution. So at the core, these principles are very non-exclusive. It's you got to look beyond what you say is just our jobs, but our jobs are in fact intertwined with our society, with our communities, and fighting for the rights of all people is at the nature of what a real union should be about.
Yeah.
And they're getting us so out of that sphere that we actually think that speaking out about the things like that young man did has nothing to do with the union.
Yeah.
And that's where we lost.
It's all about wages, hours, and job conditions.
Right.
And fucking getting their ass kicked on those too. So, and they can't understand why they're getting their ass kicked on those issues, because you can't win anything as a class unless you fight as a class. A union is supposed to be an army of class struggle. It's supposed to be a way to implement our will on the bosses, to break their willingness to fight, to demoralize them, and to increase the morale of our class to fight back and speak in our own names. That's what a union is. And so long as we are not a union like that, we're going to continue to feel weak. And the thing is that they got no problem with us being weak. They love it.
They prefer it.
They prefer it because they want partnership with the bosses.
Yeah. That's the number one thing. They tell us in executive board, when they train us, they say relationships with management. They don't say relationships with members. They say relationships with management. And it doesn't work. I mean, I see these people hugging these freaking managers. They praise them. The same people who are firing people for total BS, for being sick. We're hugging them. How can you be partners with someone like that? How?
Well, I mean,
How?
in your union, I think it's a little more severe because they actually call the manager's brother. So that's a
Yeah.
whole nother level of holy shit. Have you
Yeah.
lost the script here?
Yeah.
But in our union, for example, the VP of RTO, he was at a memorial for Garrett Goebel, and the reason why I bring this up is because there's a memorial coming up soon to remember the life of Garrett Goebel, a train operator who was killed because management allowed carts in the subways that were then set on fire, and he died in that fire from smoke inhalation. So our moron RTO VP went to a memorial for Garrett Goebel and stood from the platform. One of the first things he said was that he didn't know how he would be able to do his job without the help of a notorious manager, Herbie Lambert, who has a notorious history of abusing our members, writing them up for all sorts of stuff, and just being a dictatorial, living up to the persona of management, basically. But so here you have a public-facing event where the union is supposedly learning the lessons of what happened to Garrett Goebel so that they can take action to stop that from ever happening again. And the first thing they have to say is, I don't know how I would be able to do my job without the cooperation I'm getting from this particular manager.
It's sick. It's business unionism at its finest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And they would be proud. I could just see my own president and executive board very proud of, Eric for what he said, and they would be like, now that's a real union.
It's not Eric. It's Canelo Gomez, actually.
Oh, Canelo. Okay, Canelo. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, every 3 years we cycle through another
isn't it?
Miss Lackey, who runs as a fire-breathing fighter who's gonna not accept disrespect.
Yeah.
And he personally will not accept it. And this individual method of the guy who's wrong and strong and is feisty and fire-breathing. They become pussycats the minute they get into office because they get instructed on what the game is. And
as soon as they got elected, you go to the member. I'm hearing it already. They're saying, "Hey, man, I went and told the union rep that we need to be getting paid for such and such and so and so, and we're not getting paid." The new union rep said, "Well, we really don't want to make the manager mad." I mean, what is a union if you're not making managers mad? I mean, what are we?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been guided by the principle of Martin Luther King that not Martin Luther King. I'm sorry, FDR. When not that I support FDR, but this quote tends to be very fitting. It's like they're open with their hatred of me, and I welcome their hatred. And there's also another famous quote about when people show you who they are, believe them. I'm trying to remember who that quote was from. Is a famous Black poet. But in any case, like, our unions were founded on these kind of principles: a willful defiance of management, a belief in the power of the working class, a rejection that there can be any kind of collaboration with management, and an understanding that either we impose our will on them or they impose their will on us.
Absolutely. Only way. It's the only way. I mean, because look what they're doing. They call cops on you. They'll drag you out.
Yeah. I mean, in both of our unions, they'll call the cops on you. My union president, Richie Davis, when we were campaigning against the contract in Local 100, threatened to call the cops on us and have us removed from Mike Quill Depot.
Yep.
And in your case, they go one step further. They want to have cops remove you from union meetings. That's a whole nother level. But I mean, if people look at this and don't see that we've lost our way, and that we have to check our own consciousness, because a lot of these hateful anti-working class racist ideas, they come in through the back door. They get smuggled in by our own leaders
through fear,
and also as a validation of their strategy of never confronting the boss over unsafe working conditions, never having any independent political action, and in fact serving as an appendage of the boss to be the best explainers of boss logic to us.
Yes.
And so that that is what weakens us and demoralizes us and gets us to accept these phony solutions and the gaslighting and scapegoating that the ruling class always has on offer for working class people to accept.
And we got to understand, when our union officials, when our bootlicking, boss loving traders do what they do, they are functioning according to the will of our employer. Mm-hmm. That's it. There's really no other purpose to what they're doing. It shows you who's in control. Not that, and what they want you to do, they want you to run to the boss and say, hey, man, like, how can I say this? Our union lacks so much clout with the membership that here I am, a new rep, right? And I'm dealing with not a case, but I'm dealing in an instance of two workers who have problems with each other. Mm-hmm. And they're both going to management about each other. Mm-hmm. And, I'm like, I need to talk with you guys. So I got one-on-one, okay? And I go to the other. And the other says, yeah, I'll meet with you, but I want the manager in the room too.
Oh, God.
I went, whoa. I said, hey, what? Yeah, I just, okay. But when I listened to them explain themselves, and I had to be guarded in what I said, of course, but I wanted to listen. I heard someone that's been betrayed too many times by business unionists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So our unions have been co-opted so badly. It's so easy to just stay focused on the elected people and avoid the reality that we have to confront, and that is our employer is in control of our unions, whether it's local 100, 308, 241.
Well, I mean, we also have to clean. We have to clean our own consciousness. We have to be conscious about undoing successful propaganda that seeps into our consciousness. Like, we have to check ourselves and our own consciousness. And people will piss and moan about how the morale is terrible, how it's never been worse, and and they don't seem to have a solution for it. It's just they want to complain about it, right? But the bottom line is that culture is created through struggle, and a lack of struggle creates culture too. It creates a self-hating, toxic culture that's directed by our enemies. And we have to, and the only way to effectively defend ourselves is not by talk, it's by action. It's by showing the potential of collective fight back. I mean, just to give you an example, like how lost our union leadership is. In RTO, there's all sorts of complaints about work schedules, all sorts of complaints about lack of recovery time. The work program just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Every year they're cutting recovery time, and they're adding more trips to jobs and getting rid of all of the light duty jobs that people we fought for, to be able to work those jobs when you're up in age, and to begin to reduce the toll that members are facing from their work environment. And little by little, those jobs are being wiped out. So when you make a complaint to the union leadership about, well, what are you doing about these jobs? Their argument is, well, management controls the work program, and there's nothing we can do about it. And so
they love that.
When that argument is not sufficient, which it definitely isn't, their default position is, well, if members would just write G2s to management, statements to management, telling them about these jobs and documenting that they're not getting recovery time, that's how things will change. But without any proof, how can we prove to management that these jobs are abusive? So, like, the idea that, if only the czar knew, if only the dictator knew how much we struggled and sacrificed, of course they would act to change these abusive conditions, and everything would be great. And if we could just convince them that it's really not in their interests to exploit us. I mean, this is the fantasy world that these leaders live in, that like if they just make the right argument to explain to the boss how it's really in their interest not to exploit us, then everything will be great and we'll have partnership.
And let me tell you, if you vote for me, I'll make sure I'm getting a seat at the table, and I'll make sure I'll tell the boss exactly what he needs to do in the right way. Unlike those militants like John Ferretti and Eric Bashir. Yeah, I have a good approach. Those guys, they won't cut it.
Yeah, I know. Well, so in any case, we try to keep this to about an hour. We're almost at the hour mark, so we're a little past the hour mark. We're going to be trying to do this on an every week basis on Tuesdays between 1 and 2 p.m. Eastern time. You don't have to always participate at the time that it's broadcast. The conversation continues, and we look forward to discussion and questions and comments that likely won't agree with our political strategy. And we're open to really having that discussion, because I think that a lot of our differences stem from a deliberately hateful and dishonest propaganda campaign that workers are not even aware that is being acted upon them. But they're not even aware of the coordination of ruling class forces, not just the right wing, but also supposed left wing politicians, and the kind of narratives and tropes that they constantly put out there. And
they're worse. They're worse.
What, the left?
Yeah.
Well,
because they make you think. They make you think, hey, I'm on your side, buddy.
Yeah, they're more deceptive, definitely, but the right wing is definitely more dangerous in terms of how far they're willing to go.
But at least you know where they're coming from. You know what to expect.
Yes, I know. But just because I see a fascist coming doesn't mean that makes them any less dangerous.
No, that's right. Get away from me. Yeah. Yeah.
So, in any case, what this podcast is going to be seeking to do is to try to deprogram a lot of the false narratives and gaslighting and scapegoating that were being offered by not just ruling class agents in the political sphere in the media, but also ruling class agents within our own unions. And we know it's harsh to describe a union that we should be proud of as an agent of the bosses, but we have to be honest with ourselves about how the scale of the crisis we face politically, and what is pro-union and what is anti-union. Me and Eric are pro-union because we actually believe in the principles that unions were founded on. And we also represent the tradition of those who founded the unions in the first place. And do not kid yourself. If there was a union to be founded now from the bottom up, and these were the leaders that were going to found that union, we'd all wind up in concentration camps, if not worse, because these people don't know anything about organizing, and they don't know anything about class independence.
And they don't want to know. They don't want to know.
I mean, you can see from the response of Robert Kelly what their attitude is to any kind of confrontation with the bosses. He's allergic to it. And it seems like the craziest idea in the history of the world to him. In any case, we thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to continuing the discussion next week. Please let us know about topics that you wanted to see discussed here on the Working Class Power Hour podcast. We want this to be your platform as well, and we want to make sure not to leave out any voices of working class rank and file members about what the solutions are. If you don't think that some of the solutions that we put forward here are the solutions, then we want to hear what you think of the solutions, because we're not going to get anywhere if we don't communicate. We're not going to humanize ourselves with the kinds of struggles that can actually save our class unless we begin that dialogue. We thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to talking with you all real soon. Have a great night, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Take care. Solidarity.
Peace.